guys backstage, so just pay attention. Welcome, everybody. This is Coach Powell. This is Coach Powell Training and Development. Coffee, tea, you and me, every Friday for the last 20 years. I've been helping entrepreneurs, business leaders, sole proprietors of all types figure out how to get their act together, do the right thing, and make sure that they are making the kind of business happen that they want to have happen. This is our platform. This is our opportunity. I started this program off many years ago at the local Panera Bread, just sitting down, talking to entrepreneurs and business leaders, helping them deal with various different issues as they came up with it. And this is the current iteration of that. After COVID, we've executed now probably 200 episodes every Friday of the show. If you guys haven't seen the show in the past, you can go back and log on to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and catch the program on all those different platforms. Today is a special moment. I have got my fraternity brothers in the house today, and I'm so proud. In fact, I'm gonna put my hat on right now. I'm so proud to know that my fraternity brothers support the program, and it's a great thing. I am the bigger and better business program coordinator for my local chapter of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and this is one of the initiatives that the brothers decided they wanted to support. And I was so glad I reached out to brothers all over the country to come on board with this special episode. So today you're going to hear not just about vision and how you could use vision in your business, but you're going to hear from some of the best men in the world, on the planet. They're going to chime in and share some ideas and some of their expertise with you today in the audience. And they're chomping at the bit. I see them in the background. They're back there. Wave your hands, guys. They can't see you guys. You guys can't see them, but I can see them. They're backstage, just ready to go. I got Dr. Lacella Hall. I got Sydney Machette. I got Jason Cavness. They're all business leaders and entrepreneurs in their own right. Some of them more than others. They've got great personalities, great skills, great talents, and I can't wait to bring them forward to you guys. In fact, we're going to introduce them really quickly at the top of the hour here, and then we're going to make sure that you get backstage and they're going to get all ready and pretty for you guys. Guys, if you can come off your mics, that's great. There you go. Hey guys, how's it going?
How you doing? Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing well.
Thanks for having us, good brother.
Fantastic. So good to see you guys. I told the listening audience, I got brothers, we got talent from all over the world, and it's good to see you guys. Why don't you guys tell everybody where you calling in from today?
I'll go first. I'm from Brooklyn, but I'm calling from the Bronx, New York, Mott Haven section.
All right.
Love it.
I'm Jason Cadams. I'm from Texas, but I live in the Seattle area now.
Good brother. I'm Dr. Lacella Hall. I'm actually from Omaha, Nebraska, but currently calling in from Alexandria, Virginia.
My name is Marvin, Coach Powell, they call me, and I hail from the beautiful town of Oxon Hill, Maryland, where I went to Oxon Hill High School and graduated top of the class in my ROTC unit. So nobody was smarter than me in my ROTC unit because I was the commander, and that's how that rolls. And I went to Kent State University, and now we're here back in the Washington metropolitan area in Northern Virginia, doing our thing for small business and small business leaders. As I told you guys, the show today is about vision and how people can use vision to propel themselves forward. And I'm going to put you guys backstage, and I'm going to introduce the topic as soon as I can. In fact, before I do that, why don't each of you all just kind of quickly share with us your thoughts about vision? Just real quick, nothing too difficult, but your thoughts about vision and why it's important to use vision. I'll pick on Machette first.
I'm ready. I think vision is it's really important because it allows you to see not only the future, but something that maybe has never been done before. And what I think makes it exciting is you're the only person who knows how to do it. I would know that it's there. So now the challenge is that how do you get to execute that vision and to bring it into fruition? And that's what I think what makes being in business and our different disciplines exciting. I know I'm doing an ERP project, and so I'm envisioning every day and get nervous, but it's a nervous excitement, and I definitely enjoy that.
Fantastic, Brother Cavness.
Yeah, so I think with vision, you have to decide with yourself, you want to be a manager or a leader, right? I don't think managers have any vision. Leaders have vision, right? And you know, if you start a small company or a small business, or even if you work for someone, you probably have one or two people, only one or two people work for you. Like, what's your vision for them, right? You might be tell them, hey, you know, if you do this, my vision for you gonna get a promotion. If you're a startup, your company, like, what's the vision, right? It might be small today, but is your vision like be like the number one X in the state of Nebraska? You know, and you have to tell your people your vision for your company, what you want to do, right? With no vision, no one's gonna want to work for you.
You know, that reminds me of a good old Bible saying that everybody who's ever gone to church knows, without a vision, people perish. And it's super important for leaders to have that vision, whether you call yourself a leader or not, whether you're a manager, supervisor, or title. If you're responsible for other people's work, you have to have vision, and you have to be able to share it. Any thoughts on this, Dr. LaSalle?
Yeah, sure. I agree with the brothers. I'd also add, for me, what's exciting about vision is that it's extremely personal, right? And I think that vision for me really ties to mission and purpose. And so I know we'll get into that a little later, but for me, it's personal. And I think that that in itself is exciting, because when you think about vision, I think essentially it can be organic and it can grow and it can change. And so that's really, I think, is important when we talk about vision. It shouldn't be static. I think your vision should be ongoing and continuing to grow. And I think that's really important.
And I want to add to that, like with your vision, you can't just say it one time or two times. You got to say it over and over and over again, like almost hundreds of times until everyone knows it, right? It does you no good to say it like one time on like December 1st and never say it again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Okay, guys, I'm going to kick you guys backstage. I'm going to introduce the program, introduce the stuff. I'm going to yap on for about 15, 20 minutes. Then I'm going to bring you guys back on stage and we can chop it up for the last hour, and then we'll make it all happen. And so if anybody has any questions or anything, you know, let me know now, because you can be backstage and I can't interact with you back there. Any thoughts? Anything you want to share? All right. Be back with you in just a little bit. So as my brother suggested earlier, you know, vision is a super, super, super important part, and it's a important part of my process. At Coach Powell Training Development, we have a process called the VisionQuest process, and that process I created over many, many years. And when I first started, I only thought about the 4 camps. I only thought about vision, goals, habits, and mission as a part of what you need to plan to really get your act together. But over 20 years of my experience, I really, really understood how important it is to bring contacts and partners into everything that you do. And the more that you're able to work with other people, the more that you have to bring other people to the table, the more you're going to be able to be successful no matter what you do. So last week we talked about connections and partnerships. This week, we're going to talk about vision, and next week, we're going to talk about mission. And then when we finish out the pie in the next couple of weeks before the beginning of the year, we'll have finished everything you need to put in place to really begin your planning process. Now, I'm a big proponent of creating well-written, brilliant, articulated plans. You can't just say you want to do something and keep it to yourself. And you can't just, write it down and not share it. You have to do them both. You have to write it down, and you have to write it so that it's really, really, really articulated really well, and then you have to share it with the right people. And that's why that people connection is so very, very important. The next thing you want to do, and this is, I'm just kind of go backwards for a little bit. I talked about last week about partnerships, and one of the classic examples of partnerships is going to be this gentleman who's right in front of us. He's also one of our fraternity brothers. Some of you may know him. Is Dr. George Washington Carver. He went by many, many names, but the reason why he was famous was not just because of his own work. It was because he was working with this man right here. He was working with Mr. Henry Ford to develop so many different agricultural products and services. And you wouldn't think a former slave and a captain of American industry could come together and recreate and redevelop a brand new form of industry they call chemergy. And without chemergy, we wouldn't have all the wonderful things that we have today that launched and helped the Industrial Revolution take the next steps forward. And it was a beautiful collaboration. So you have partners in where to share your vision, amazing things are going to happen. You're going to have these key collaborative elements. Whenever you find somebody who you can share your vision with, you're going to have a mutual and common interest with. And it's very personal. Like Dr. Hall said earlier, there's mutual respect, there's personal admiration. You're going to have common goals. All those things you're going to have put in place. And from that, you can develop so many wonderful resources for your partnership. You'll be able to collaborate with one another. You'll be able to share all the different resources you have with one another because you have that basic foundation that you need to have. But without vision, none of it really works well. And you know what? My other slide deck didn't show up, so I'm going to have to do this a little differently than I was planning to do it, but that's okay. We're going to catch right up. We're talking about vision. That was sort of a back brief on what we talked about last week. What I want to share with you this week is literally how you move from extending your partnerships to your advisory council, your boards, your fundraising goals, and your boards and people that you're working with and the collaborations that you're working with into a more comprehensive idea of what your vision can actually be. So now once you've got that partnership stuff out of the way, you really need to start thinking about, and it's inclusive, by the way. You can't do one before the other. You have to do them all simultaneously. Always partnerships involved with everything that I'm going to share with you. And when you think about these things, I want you to think about them not just as something I'm doing for me, but something I'm doing with and for everyone that I get a chance to work with. Because when you think about it like that, you have a maximum opportunity to grow and make things happen. So let's talk about vision now. When you look at vision, I want you to think about it in, you know what, I can't find this presentation that I'm looking for, which is crazy because I just created it. I hope I didn't delete it by mistake, because I'm really going to kill myself if that happened. There it is. Okay. I wish I could show it to you because I didn't load it up on the screen in time enough to really show it to you guys, but I can't speak to it. So when we talk about vision, it's important that you understand that you have to be able to harness the power of vision. If you're going to harness the power of vision, you have to know there's some rules and requirements associated with vision planning. And it's not just I'm going to think about it, I'm going to dream it up. It's not going to happen. You know, and Machette said it earlier, you're going to have to be able to execute the vision. So you can't just, it's not quite goals, which we'll get into in future weeks, where vision doesn't have to be specific. It doesn't have to be, it does have to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be even time bound. And that's where, you know, when you talk about goals, you're talking about SMART goals. They're smart, they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're time bound. Vision doesn't have to be all those things, but it does have to be achievable. It does, if you're talking about vision for 2024, it has to be achievable and it has to be relevant. It doesn't have to be bound to a specific time, and it doesn't have to be measurable by what we consider traditional accounting type of measurements. And it doesn't have to be even specific. That's not a requirement of vision. But when you understand it, though, it does have to have a couple of key characteristics and elements. If you're going to be a visionary leader, you got to understand how visionary leaders think and what they talk about. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about that. Ultimately, like one of our brothers said, vision is about the end result. It's about the destiny that you believe and look forward to making a part of yourself. It's about what you can be, do, or have at some point in time in the future that you can't right now. It clarifies for you and brings an intensity to what you're trying to do in a way that nothing else can. When you have a great vision, you're going to see there's going to be a clear mental space that's going to help you plug into whatever you're doing and really identify in the areas that you need to identify so that you can have some more insight into where you're going. And vision is amazing in this way. There are three elements to vision. I would say a vision that counts. The first element is it provides strength and empowers you and the people that you're around. So you have to be able to share it. Two, it's super engaging, means it helps you focus and it helps you get to the realities that you're trying to create in your life, in your business, right? So it's super engaging. Others are going to be happy to get involved in it. Others are going to be happy to help you focus on it, help you get in deep with it. And it provides a universal connection. It provides something for everyone that you're working with, whether you're working with them from a 360-degree point of view, whether you're leading them, they're leading you, you're working collaboratively with them, and you're on the same level, or they're following you somehow, some way. Either way, you need to create that universal connection. You need to create that way for all of us to really do what we need to do. There's a couple key leaders I want you to think about when it comes to visionary leadership and what they brought to the table. There's people like Reginald Lewis, Tyler Perry, Sam Walton, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, John Rockefeller, and one of my favorites, Shantanu Narayan. All of these people have led corporations. Some of them are still alive today, and they're still leading organizations, but they lead with vision. And when they do that, they create a level of balance and wellness within the organization, and whenever they come around, people just feel better around them. Why is that? Because they have a sense of purpose. People always know what they're up to, so there's no anxiety that is produced as a result of working with them or hearing from them. They're able to increase engagement and relevance to the things that they're doing. Their relationships become amazingly useful, because everybody knows what everybody's doing, and they're sharing it, and they're sharing what they're doing, and so they can improve relationship. These things foster resilience and overall well-being when you get it right. When you get it right, it's amazing. There are a couple of key characteristics, and I'm listing 13 of them, but I'm not going to go through all 13 of the characteristics of visionary leader. I'm just going to go through my favorite ones real quick. Visionary leaders have high levels of emotional intelligence, meaning they understand their feelings and they understand the feelings of others. That's super, super important. They're the most persistent people that you would ever know, because they're driven by this internal fire that comes from their vision, that desire and that need to be, do, or have something in the future that they can't right now, right? So they're persistent about that, and they're driven towards it. Because the vision is so strong, it's compelling, right? They have some of the most creative imaginations possible. Visionary leaders are always imaginative, and they're always creative. It's even better when they can articulate their genius to other people. It's kind of why I got the brothers involved with today. I know they're all brilliant, and I know they're all geniuses in their own way, shape, or form, and they've already demonstrated that for some of you all. So it's important that when you think about the characteristics of a visionary leader, that you really, really focus in on the skills, the character, and the availability that you may have. Now, for some of you who are interested, I can send you what I call a vision assessment. And the vision assessment is going to ask you about 10 yes or no questions about your vision, so that you can check yourself basically and know what you need help with. Some of us need to be more attracted and involved in other things with other people. Are you? That's a yes or no question. Do you offer a chance to participate in, or do you witness high performance with the people that you're working with? Yes or no. Do you establish any claims to any great rewards, so people can know that the promises that that you mention or share with them as you go forward, all those promises are going to be met? All those claims going to be met? Yes or no. Can you use your vision to improve your social, emotional, or financial capacity? You know how to do that? Yes or no. Does it acquire or share resources and information that other people are going to find necessary and useful? Yes or no. Does your vision embolden a sense of confidence or commitment to perform? Yes or no. If you can pass those assessments, and the more yeses that you have, the better. The more no's that you have, the worse. Now, no one's going to be perfect. You're going to have some areas of your vision where you may need some help and some connection. And to that end, I've created several things, because I've written about vision and mission and all that kind of good stuff for years, over and over and over again. I have several articles that I could point you to. One is the True Voice Vision module. That's a part of a training manual that I created that helps people tap into their vision. It helps them really, really focus on what it is, what it should be, what it's not, what's missing, what's working, and all that kind of stuff. And I can send that to you. All you can do is ask me. Just say, Marvin, I want the True Voice Vision module. Put that in the chat, and I will make sure you get it. Same thing for my other vision exploration module, which I put together for people in my network, literally to teach them how to use vision to engage and empower people. I have another vision module that you can ask for too. I'll send you both of them when you ask me for either one. I'll send them both to you. That way you have it. But you can hit me up in the chat or DM me or whatever you want to do. Speaking of, my information should be scrolling across the screen in just a second. My brothers are talking to each other in the private chat. I see you guys back there. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I want to make sure I get this going across the screen real quick. And then we're going to open it up for conversation and see where it goes. I know now this is a different interface because I'm using Chrome, and my stuff that I like to use all the time doesn't come up. There we go. That's how you, if you want to get in contact with me, you want to share some ideas, you want to post some information in the chat, no matter where you're watching from or calling in from. Even if you are looking at this program from a future aspect, means you're watching a replay somehow, some way, the chat's still going to be active on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, so you can chime in. Please tell us where you are, tell us what's going on. If you have any questions, post it in the chat. I'm going to bring the brothers back on stage, and we're going to chop it up a little bit and talk more about vision. And what's going on with them. Okay, gentlemen, you heard my yip yang about vision and where I thought things were going to go and stuff like that. Any thoughts come to mind? Anything that you want to add to the table?
Yeah, I have one real fast. So another reason why vision is important, especially for like a startup founder, small business owner. Like if you start a business today, odds are you're not going to become a millionaire tomorrow, right? It's a long process, right? And I tell people, remember like when Steve Jobs and Wozniak started Apple, it took 8 years for Apple to become Apple, right? And so it kept them going to 8 years with Steve Jobs' vision, right? So vision is very important to get you to those days where, like, I mean, it's going to suck sometimes. You're hearing no all the time, you're going to kick in the teeth, and your vision is going to keep you going towards that goal, I think.
So that brings me to a great question that I have. And don't if you don't have an answer, you don't have to answer. But should your vision be flexible? Should you be open to changing your vision? If you are, when should that be?
I would say yes, but each person is different. I just think it's something like when you pivot your business, something the market just tells you, right?
Right. I hear you.
Yeah, I would add it definitely should be changeable because your vision is based off on what you foresee, right? I think when we talk about vision, we have to understand the idea of a vision is you're seeing something that other people can't see. And so as you're achieving this vision or parts of this vision, you're going to be able to see new things, right? And so I think that's really important to understand that vision should change, it should grow, it should be something that is constantly moving. That doesn't mean that the core of your vision is moving, but as you're continuing to do work and you achieve the goal of your organization or your institution or your business, I think it absolutely should evolve, just like we as people evolve.
I hear you, but I find that my clients a lot of times when they get so locked in to the process they currently have, the strategy they currently have, that it's very, very difficult for them to open up and see newer opportunities or newer ways of thinking or newer ways of bringing things out. Because like there's a reason why we need diversity, equity, and inclusion right now, right? And part of that is creativity, innovation. A lot of people, they need to be able to open to different perspectives in order to have their perspective be influenced by something positive and powerful, which is difficult. I think we all have a trajectory, right? There's what we think we can do, but then there's, like you said, Dr. Hall, what we find out we can do as we move towards what we think we can do. And you got to be open to those new ideas and those new thoughts. I mean, it's almost like your vision is like, I think of people like Lewis and Clark, right? They didn't know what they were getting into when they first kicked off trying to get down up out west. They had some stuff with them. They didn't even know they had the right resources or equipment, right? But they did have a vision as to where they were going to go. They found out along the way, what, this isn't going to be as easy as we thought it was going to be. We're going to need some help from some other people who have expertise and talent along the way. Speaking of expertise and talent, Brother Moshe is one of the most talented CPAs in the world.
Oh, stop.
Give me.
Stop. But you know what? You don't even know how smart you are. Do you realize how symbolic that is? Are you talking about as they're going through their expedition? They started down south, and so what their vision was, it evolved literally as they continue during their path, whichever. And I'm sure they didn't even know what their path was going to be.
Right. They had a fuzzy idea that they were going west. They're eventually going to have to go west, right? But it wasn't clear. Like some people, they get upset because their vision isn't absolutely clear.
Yeah.
That's not what vision has to be. It just has to be directional. It just means it has to be this way as opposed to that way. You know?
and I think even keeping with the Lewis and Clark analogy, understanding that they also had a guide, right? So as we celebrate certainly indigenous communities always and uplifting those voices, part of the vision is understanding that there's interconnectedness, right? And the ability to understand that, as you said, sometimes you might need a guide, right? Sometimes you have to say, oh, well, maybe what's happening right now isn't what I thought was going to happen, but we got to trust. I think part of that is also they had to trust the guide. And I think we have to understand when we're coming up with these visions, you got to trust that guide, whether that guide is internal, whether that guide is external. I think that's really, really important to understand as visions are evolving, being open to the process as it's happening.
That is so true. That is so true. It's like getting Brother Machette to come on the show today. I had to rely on his trust in me because he didn't know what he was getting into. He didn't have a clue. And as an intelligent CPA, he went, wait a minute. Maybe I'm not the guy. You want to rethink this? And I said, bro, get out of here. I know you. Come on, you'll be great at this. But it wasn't just leaning on the shield. It was allowing the trust that we've already built to come through. If he hadn't trusted me, there'd be no way I'd have talked him on the show with as little information as I prepared him with. You see, so trust, like you said, Brother Hall, is key.
Absolutely.
Because when you have it, amazing things can happen. When you don't have it, you probably shouldn't get involved with too many things before you establish trust. Because, because there's a book, in fact, I probably have it at my fingertips. No, I don't. I buried it somewhere else. There's a book called Speed of Trust that I want to share with anybody who's listening to us today. It's written by not Dr. Covey, Dr. Covey's son, Stephen M.R. Covey, wrote The Speed of Trust. And it lists out literally the principles and ideas and concepts that you need to have to establish a maximum amount of trust. And I teach my clients all the time, you have to learn how to ask for the trust that you want in other people. And what do I mean by that? If you want somebody to introduce you to somebody else, but you don't have the trust yet in order for that introduction to happen, you need to be willing to ask them point blank, listen, what do I have to do? What do I have to show you? Who do I have to be in order to earn an introduction to XYZ person that I think you know or that I know you know? Very few of us have the stones. I'm going to use stones because it's the PG-13 program, to point blank ask, how can I earn the trust required to move our relationship forward and allow me to leverage the time, talent, or trust or treasure that you have? And that's a very difficult thing. Brother Machette, I'm going to let you go off the show. You have a connection issue. So when you come back, I'll see you on stage. There you go. Perfect. So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about trust and treating it as an opportunity to establish more clarity for your vision?
Yeah, I agree. The first thing that comes to my mind when we talk about trust too is building these relationships, right? And if we're being honest and having a really authentic conversation, that can be scary, right? Like the notion of trying to build relationships, whether you're in business and trying to build it with a bank, we know that there's a lot of conversation around capital. There's certainly a lot of conversation around just capitalism as a whole, so relationships are important. When we talk about in our communities, I identify as African American. And so when we talk about in the Black community, I'm always saying to Brother Powell, and he's heard me say it 1,000 times, like, what is the Black agenda? What is our goal around, as some would argue, I think, Boyce Watson talks about, this idea about Black economics, and how do we see that, and how do we see our communities working together. I was telling somebody just the other day, I think I was telling my barber, I said, we talk about working in a multicultural, interracial world, but the reality is, as far as Black folks, I said, as a barber, you could not operate your business as a barber without Black men. He was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. It would be impossible. And so the need to build trust by building relationships and having authentic relationships, right, I think is really, really important. And knowing that, what I would say what trust is consistency over time, right? So when we talk about what defining trust looks like, it's about having consistency over time, knowing that I can depend on you over time. And I think it's the same thing in business relationships, right? And so that's one of my mind.
What I learned from Stephen Covey's book is trust is specific. I may trust you for one thing, but not another thing, right? You may have earned my trust in one area, but not this other area over here. And so it's super, super important that we don't think of trust as this generalized, over-encompassing thing. It's almost like respect. We do the same thing with respect. We think respect is I respect everybody, but you literally can't respect everybody if you understand the definition of respect. Respect is being able to honor someone's specific characteristics and really, really be excited and devoted and really caring about those specific things. That's what respect is. Respect is not this general, I respect anybody, everybody because they breathe. No, they haven't earned it. You don't know them to even give them honor and hold them in high regard, which is what respect is. And so I think sometimes we get so excited about where we're trying to go. Sometimes we don't take the time to break down the rudiments and the fundamentals of it. Like vision is so powerful and it's so important. And we give it such a short shrift sometimes when it comes to our planning. Like for 2024, your vision should drive you all the way through. You shouldn't be able to say, I'm going to set some resolutions. I'm going to set some goals up in December or January. And then by February, you already quit. That wasn't strong. It wasn't strong enough. Really, you needed more. You need to have that more connected tissue to it that would compel you and pull you forward. I could set as many weight loss goals as I want to set, or as many. I'm going to do 10,000 push-ups by February, but I can't do 10 now. That might be my vision, and it might be strong, but it simply ain't doable. In terms of my time commitment or in terms of even my ability, unless I'm going to do partner assisted push-ups or something like that, I was going to do it. But you get where I'm coming from. It's very difficult, I think, for people, especially business leaders and entrepreneurs, to pull together vision all by themselves without the help of other people, kind of chiming in terms of what is the collective vision. Brother Hall mentioned that earlier when you talk about, what is the Black agenda? Well, there is no Black agenda until people come together collectively and unify under the ideas and the values that they want to share with. And then from that becomes an agenda. Mm-hmm. So is it unity first and then the agenda, or is it the agenda that drives the unity? I say it's both. And it's okay that it's both. Because vision, like other things in life, can't take place in a vacuum in order to be truly effective. It has to be open, and you have to be flexible, and you have to get the expertise and talent from other people as you move along, and you got to be willing to do that. If you're not willing to do that, then I got to ask how important is this vision to you in the first place?
And it's hard,
right?
It's hard to get there.
Right.
It's going to have a lot of layers. So
right.
You got just talked about trying to get to the moon. I mean,
right.
That's not who would ever think to try to do something like that.
until somebody thought to try to do something like that, right? You know, and I think sometimes one possibility lends to the next possibility, right? So when you can conceive of something, I look at like what we know now is as the cell phones, right? I remember watching when I was young, watching earlier episodes of Star Trek, right?
Oh yeah.
And I started thinking, that's probably going to be possible in the future. But some fiction writer was who wrote Star Trek? Ian Fleming? No, it wasn't Ian Fleming. It was somebody else. Roddenberry.
Yeah.
Roddenberry, right. Gene Roddenberry wrote Star Trek. Anyway, he already envisioned it. Our fiction writers envision a lot of things before they happen. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. If anybody had to read that classic when you were in high school or junior high, whenever we read that damn thing, I'm like, wow, that might be possible. And it became possible.
What's that saying? If you can believe it, you can achieve it.
Yeah.
No matter how crazy it might be.
It might not be in your lifetime. That's the other thing. Is your vision strong enough to last beyond you? Is it big enough to grow outside of you? That to me is, I think, one of the elements that you got to have in the vision. It's got to be bigger than you. Maybe even bigger than your abilities or capabilities, which means you have to go out there and find and create and generate the resources needed to pull it off.
Or at least to say, I need help with these resources. I got some gaps. Yeah.
Right. Which sometimes you don't know you have until you bump up against an obstacle, right? It's just like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing.
It's so funny. One of my favorite quotes from another Sigma brother, Brother Brandon Brown out of Philadelphia, had a quote when I was in college. He would say, "A vision without resources is the hallucination." Hey,
I like that.
He would say that.
I like
you have to have resources. So I think that's a really good point too.
Yeah, that's super important. Or even if you don't have them, the willingness to seek them out and to acquire them. Because acquisition of resources doesn't always take money.
That's absolutely right.
Sometimes it's just the vision is big enough that other people get excited about it and they're throwing in their resources. That's what we all hope for when it comes to social capital. Dr. Hall mentioned capital, earlier, but social capital is cashing in your chips of those relationships that you've built over time. And if you could grow those relationships with that social capital, good. There's a term I want to mention called win-win. You guys ever heard of that term before? Yeah. That means nobody loses, right? And no matter what we're doing, everybody wins. But the thing is, unless we are careful, we won't know what a win looks like for other people. We got to be open and ask the question, is this good for you? Why is this good for you? How is it going to be good for you? Do you see yourself involved in this process, in this thing? Next thing you know, they're throwing in. They're making a commitment. They're throwing in their time, their talent, their treasure. All of us, especially those of us who've been active in the fraternity for the last couple of years, we've been volunteering like crazy, right? A whole bunch of time, a whole bunch of effort. And we have to ask ourselves when it's all said and done, is it worth it? What does it mean to them? What's in it for us? And it's not money or reputation necessarily. Sometimes it's just credibility. Sometimes it's just validation. Sometimes it's, many other things that will allow a person to make a commitment to something. Maybe you do it because your friend did it, or maybe you did it because, it's important. But there's no misunderstanding here. There is in the world of accounting, we call this, or economics, we call this sort of a loss leader. Everything costs, no matter how you slice it. Your time, effort, and energy is all worth something.
And also, like, I added real fast, like, sometimes you have a vision, you don't know how it's going to play out, right? Like, back when we went to the moon, back in '69, like Kennedy said, we're going to be the moon. one thing I don't people realize now, like a smartphone has more power in it than the moon landing computers, right?
Right.
So I'm sure they didn't imagine they doing all the moon landings, computer stuff, that out of this tech in the future, a smartphone will come that would be more powerful than the moon landing, right?
Right. But they created the tech. They created the tech, and then somebody said, I wonder if we can make this better. And then somebody said, well, yeah, we can. And then somebody said, I wonder if we can make it even better than that. And then pretty soon it just got better and better and better. And that's what's happening. What's the world we live in right now?
Yeah, it's just crazy to think that the failed software we have now has more power, computing power than what got us on the moon. Just to me, this is insane.
But I think that goes back to, I would chime in, about making it better. And to your point, Brother Powell, I think it makes me think about that visions, while they're important to us, how do we make sure that they're not fragile?
Right.
Right. Like, it's understand that, one, not everybody's going to see your vision. I told someone the other day a quote, for me as a faith-based person, when God gave you purpose, it wasn't a committee meeting. It wasn't a committee meeting, right? It was an individual conversation. And so I think sometimes when we're talking about vision, we can be fragile, and it doesn't have to necessarily be that way. Somebody might want to build on your vision, and upon building on your vision, that might be them wanting to provide more resources. And so we have to be really open and honest about when we're creating businesses and organizations and nonprofits, like what are these, these institutions can take on a life of their own sometimes, right? As we're preparing for next year in the political arena, we're going to see all types of people talk about visions, right? And we're going to be inundated with commercials and text messages that people are talking about what their vision is for the future. And those people are going to have to not be fragile when people are asking them questions about their vision, right?
Right.
And I would add on his point, I would think the more disruptive or more revolutionary your vision is, the less likely people are going to get it right. Right.
Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes the best idea is a revolutionary idea. But, the force of commitment and will that is required to build coalition around a revolutionary idea is so palpable, is so empowering that when people do get it, man, they're hard to stop. It's hard to stop, even the craziest notion. Once you get people behind it, it does take on a life of its own.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to mention any presidents, but when they said, some dumb stuff like, let's go tell them at the Capitol what we're talking about. I'm sure he didn't have a clue the trouble he was about to get in, when people started showing up to the Capitol building trying to rip the place apart. And that wasn't his intention. I don't believe that at all, because that's absolutely criminal behavior. That'll get you the death sentence in the wrong places. So he is kind of crazy. So anyway,
no, as a New Yorker, I could confirm that. But he's entertaining.
That's why he left. That's why he had to get out of there.
He never left. Yeah.
All right, brothers. The show, I only keep the show for about 50 minutes. So we're getting to the end of the show. Is there anybody have any last thoughts about vision they want to share? Because then I'm going to put you backstage, and then I'm going to have you hold on while I close the show. Any last thoughts?
I have one real fast, and not a vision, but back to trust, right? So trust, you need to trust people, but people are going to betray your trust, right? This is going to happen, right? Yep. What you should not do is some person betrays your trust. After that, I'm not going to trust no one ever again, right? That person betrays your trust. Learn your lesson, take some lesson from it, but then open your heart, or what do you want to call it, to the next person and be trustworthy to them, right? Do it on an individual basis. I know too many people that get screwed over, or somebody betrays your trust, and they completely close off, right? You shouldn't do that.
I have a whole workshop on that. And I think that trustworthiness comes from integrity, meaning you can see people who literally can make promises to themselves that they can keep. And that's why I tell people, don't tell people you have integrity. Show them that you have integrity by not just doing what you say you're going to do for them, but do what you say you're going to do for yourself. Because when people see that you have integrity, they can make the switch and turn that into trustworthiness. But when they see that you lying to yourself, you keep making to yourself, promises that you're not going to keep to yourself, then you can't be trustworthy outside of yourself. That means your discernment hat has to come on, and you have to be able to discern, wait a minute. This guy talks a good game, but I could tell he don't even believe what he's saying. So why should I? And that's where discernment comes in, because you do have to trust people. Don't question, but how to trust people is go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say there's a great American, I forgot who actually termed it in sports, and said, "No biscuit, no biscuit." And
yeah, that's a classical one. That's classic.
Right, yeah. But you
classic.
need to, but you have to take some risk. But somewhere, and you kind of referred to it, Marvin, there has to be some kind of risk management. And
Right.
Some of it is common sense, some of it is leaning on your coaches, but you could do it in a certain way. And also understand, going back to what Jason said, hey, if you go and you get burned, it's okay. You just got to dust yourself off and jump right back in there. But with that risk, you'll be able to fulfill your vision. I believe in a quicker and more thorough manner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jason's right about that. You both right about that. And the question you have to always ask yourself at the end of every day is, what did you learn? What did you learn, and how can you apply what you learned? Not how can you sit down and go home? How could you be quiet, or how could you step back? That's not moving. Life is moving forward with or without you. So the question is, are you going to be moving forward with your life, or are you going to be so scared that you paralyzed? Brene Brown, one of my favorite coaches, talks about fear, blame, shame, and guilt. And those key things that create that in people allow them create the rationale by which they're paralyzed, by which they say to themselves, I can't, I'm not gonna, I shouldn't, I'm not worthy, blah, 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 blah. The more you get rid of fear and turn fear into courage, and turn, all these other things into what they need to be in order to move you forward, because every one of those negative terms has a positive, ulterior that you can embrace in your own mind. Okay, I'm afraid. So what do I have to do to move forward anyway? I have to embrace courage. I feel a little guilty. All right. So what do I have to do to move forward anyway? It's I got to be bold, even if I'm guilty. You got to tell yourself the story, right? A different story in order to move you forward. I'm getting into coaching stuff. We'll talk about that stuff at a later date. It was so good to have you, brothers. Thank you so much.
Well,
I can't even say how grateful I am. The words will not even come to me to express my gratitude that you're coming forward, that you're playing with us this way. And I'm gonna put you backstage now, but I don't want you to go anywhere unless you have to, because I got a special gift for all of you all.
Great.
All right. So, how do I get Michelle out of here? There you go. Bye, Michelle. All right. So this is Coffee Tea, You and Me, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. This is what we do every single week. We chop it up with the best of the best, the brightest of the brightest. I'm so blessed and so wonderfully gifted to have my fabulous fraternity brothers online with us today. Again, they're a great group of guys. I'm glad I chose this. And what I will give a little plug for the fraternity. What's different about us is that we're inclusive. We make it a part of everything we do and everything we say, and we prove it. You can look at our membership and you can see who we are and what we're all about. And you can tell we're not monolithic, and we're not individualistic. We're inclusive and we're growth oriented. And so this is a good group of, if you ever thought about connecting people to a great cause, tell them look into Phi Beta Sigma. Anyway, this is Coffee Tea, You and Me. I'm out. Had a great time. I hope you guys had a great time too. And we are gone. Now, if I get, there we go. Bye-bye.